reason why they gatekeep it to highways is because it's safer that way. They're clearly marked roads, and you're not putting the driver at as much risk with some other self-driving systems. I won't point fingers. Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're trying something brand new. I'm putting my mug on camera. Right, so before we begin the video, if you don't like this format, please let me know. I'll go back to strapping a GoPro to my forehead. But with that being said, let's carry on to the video. So today I have my 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E. So this is my own car that I replaced my 2021 Elantra N-Line with. So I kept a lot of you in the dark for a few months as I was going through the process of getting rid of that car and getting this one. I wasn't originally going to buy a Mach-E, but the EV deals, as many of you know, are just incredible, at least in the USA right now. I got this Mach-E for $12,000 off MSRP. I'm actually leasing it for 20K miles a year, and it was just such a fine vehicle. I test drove it and I was incredibly impressed. So with that being said, don't knock me for buying an EV. I think they're really nice utility vehicles. They definitely do take the fun out of driving in a lot of ways, but we're going to describe that in our video today. So this is going to be the beginning of a new ownership series where we talk about EV ownership, where we talk about what it's like to own a Mach-E over the next 2 years and 40,000 miles. Being a car reviewer and electric cars really, coming into all manufacturers' lineups, we really do need to experience them, see what they're like, see the positives and the negatives of them, and go forward with that. So join me as we go along and review this car today. This is going to be more of, what's this car about, what are the specs, and then initial impressions of ownership. So I've already actually owned this car for over 4,200 miles. We've had this car since November 16th of 2024, and I've just kind of delayed and taken my time with my ownership and kind of gotten used to the car before I wanted to showcase it for you guys here today. I've also taken it on a road trip, which I'm actually going to have a separate video describing my experiences using public charging, and yes, there were some hiccups involved with that. So my specific 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E is a premium all-wheel drive with the extended battery. So it has a 300-mile range, 365 horsepower, and 500 pound-feet of torque. Yes, I don't need that much power. Yes, I don't need that much torque, but it's nice to have. So let's get out on the road and showcase that for you today, and we'll talk about what it's like owning this Mach-E, what my experience has been so far with public charging, my charging setup at home, and just my overall experience. So to start on specifications, this has a 91 kilowatt hour battery. So it's a pretty big battery. As far as charging speed, it charges up to 150 kilowatts an hour, which is pretty good. It's definitely not on par with some of the other manufacturers out there, but I think Ford is still working on it. We have leather seats in here that are heated. We have a leather heated steering wheel. We have this big infotainment screen which has all of our settings in it. And so far I have mixed feelings about it. My first few weeks of ownership, it was hard to get used to, right? So we have basically every single setting within this screen, within menus, and you just really don't get a grasp on where things are right away. So after owning the car for a few months now, I basically know how to get to every setting, everything I need to adjust on the fly. Even if I'm driving, it's fairly easy. My HVAC controls are on the bottom of the screen. They didn't hide those in menus, which I appreciate. So this 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E has 3 available drive modes with very silly names. So they have Whisper, which is your soft setting, essentially your kind of almost your eco mode, but a lot of people claim that It's not necessarily an eco mode because the regenerative braking is turned down drastically, but it also reduces your throttle response, so you end up using a lot more power with a lot more input. It's basically a setting to kind of get it more towards like internal combustion engine cars that don't have incredible amounts of torque right away. That's, I feel like, a good setting for someone who's new to EV driving. Then we have Engage. Engage is basically your normal driving mode. I feel like it's how the car should be. It's like a medium setting as far as regenerative braking goes, and I feel like it has just the appropriate amount of throttle response. Then we have Unbridle, which I am currently in. Unbridle is regenerative braking up all the way. It's also throttle response up all the way. My steering also feels quite tight. Kind of reminds me of driving a Mustang, actually, which is funny. I feel like it's very appropriate as far as the inputs go as to what a 5.0 Mustang does feel like. Besides, obviously, you don't have a manual shifter or anything like that, and we also don't have paddle shifters in here either. We also have propulsions.
Could you try again?
Siri. We also have propulsion sound on currently. This is a setting I don't like to use. The propulsion sound doesn't really sound all that good to me, but your mileage might vary. I honestly feel like it doesn't really do anything for me. It doesn't sound like a Mustang. It doesn't sound like a futuristic car. They kind of tried to blend the two, and it doesn't work. Some of the other driving settings include auto hold, which I kind of liked at first, but I don't anymore. Auto hold basically means that when you come to a complete stop and you take your foot off the accelerator and your brake pedal, it'll basically just hold you in place, right? I didn't like it just because you kind of have to then initiate and put your foot back on the accelerator pedal, which you would have to do anyways, but you can't really ease off the brake as you would if you were just, having that setting off. And then we also have one pedal driving. I find it's very difficult to drive smoothly with this setting. Some people do like it, but I'm not a big fan of it. So let's take a minute to talk about BlueCruise. So BlueCruise is available and gated to highways, and what BlueCruise is basically a autonomous driving system. The reason why they gatekeep it to highways is because it's safer that way. There are clearly marked roads, and you're not putting the driver at as much risk with some other self-driving systems. I won't point fingers. The BlueCruise feature also allows you to change lanes. With the new update, they're actually going to be able to change lanes on its own. Right now, you actually have to initiate that with your turn stock. And I have no problem with it being automatic. I feel like if there's a lane opening and say your cruise control is set to 80 and you're behind a car that's going 65, yeah, the car should make that pass for you. That's fine. But I also don't have a problem with telling it to pass, because sometimes, even though I have it set to 80, I might want to stay behind that car that goes 65. But when that setting comes out, we can review it, because I'd like to know if there's a setting where you can make it so it still has to initiate on your own, turn signal direction instead of just doing it by itself. One of my gripes with this car, which, it's a very software-based car. It has all of my settings in this gigantic screen. We have a digital gauge cluster. Why couldn't they have it so my windshield wipers show which setting it's on inside the screen? My $20,000 Hyundai did, but my Ford Mustang Mach-E, which has an MSRP of $56,000, has yet to figure that out. So regarding ride quality, this car rides great. It's very sound inside. The interior has quite a bit of refinement, which actually improves by turning propulsion sound off. The cabin is just a very easy place to be. I will say that it doesn't go over bumps all that well. Some of the harsher roads in my road trip, such as driving through New York or New Jersey, where the roads are just absolutely horrible, those roads, those harsh bumps, were definitely a lot harder on me than I anticipated for an SUV with this size. Regarding the steering in this 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E, it's not as refined and sporty as something called a Mustang. Though Mustangs have never been known to have phenomenal steering, their inputs are very precise and they are very quick as far as, you know, your turn radius and being able to really control and tell where your tires are. But this Ford Mustang Mach-E, however, doesn't really have great steering. I will say that it's better than a lot of SUVs on the market, even some of the electric ones such as the Ioniq 5. I think the steering inputs are quite good in this SUV, but for an SUV, not for a sports car. But, you know, I'm kind of conflicted. Do I compare this to like a sporty SUV? Do I compare it to what they want me to compare it to, which is sports cars because they called it a Mustang? Or do I compare it to SUVs? Comparing it to electric SUVs, which is what I would do, this is probably the best in its class. You know, for $56,000, this is a phenomenal vehicle. We have lots of comfort in here. We have this Bang & Olufsen sound system that runs across the dashboard. And so talking about that sound system, I think it's quite good. You know, you have lots of different settings you can adjust to make it sound great to your ears, sound great to the type of music you want to listen to. I found that leaving it in the energetic setting is really what's good for me. And I really love that it kind of has a surround sound feel to it that I can also adjust on long road trips where, say, my passenger falls asleep. I can have it fade to my side of the car, and it works really well. So as you can see above me, we also have the panoramic glass roof. So this is a fixed roof. It does not open, which I'm fine about in the winter, but it's really, you know, I'm gonna have to find out if I like it in the summer when it's really hot and when I usually like my sunroof to be open. I'm a big sunroof believer. I'm a convertible type of guy. If I were to have a Ford Mustang GT, for instance, it would be a convertible. And so I think I'm gonna miss the open air access that a convertible or a sunroof gets you. But I still think that this panoramic glass roof adds a nice touch to the interior and brings a lot more light in than the standard Mach-E, which doesn't have it. Regarding practicality, this Mach-E is just phenomenal. These back seats fold down quite easily. I have this big hatchback with a very easily loadable and unloadable trunk. It doesn't sit very high, so I can get things in there that are heavier quite easy. And with these seats folding down completely, almost completely flat, I can take my, my Mach-E to the dump. I load all my trash and my cardboard back there, and it's really easy to use. So putting this Mach-E into engage, this has been my favorite driving setting so far. I feel like it does a great job at, still giving you access to your throttle when you want it and getting that power right to the wheels quite fast just as soon as you hit the accelerator pedal, while also not being too overbearing. I feel like when I'm in unbridled and I have a passenger with me, they're constantly being jerked forward and jerked back. Jerked forward because of the regenerative braking and jerked back because of the, the throttle response being so touchy. And yes, that also has to do with me not driving a ton in unbridled mode, but I still feel like engaged is kind of the best of both worlds, giving you a more balanced driving experience, which is what it was set to do all along. So this Mach-E has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which connect wirelessly, so it's really convenient to just kind of get in the car and go. I will say that I've had one little problem with my Apple CarPlay, which hopefully they'll fix in over their updates along my ownership, but I will say that when I get in the car sometimes, the audio just doesn't come through. It'll play my music, it'll connect my screen, but it won't play the audio no matter how much I turn up the volume. And so with that being said, it's kind of annoying to have to go in my phone list, disconnect my phone from Apple CarPlay, and then reconnect it. And at that point, it usually works fine. But until I do that, excuse me, it kind of takes away from the point of having wireless CarPlay, because it would take a lot less time to just connect my phone via a wire and it work properly the first time. We also have a Ford app, which hooks right up to my iPhone here. And on that Ford app, you can access things such as turning on your climate control, seeing your charge history, seeing things such as your current climate settings, being able to lock and unlock the car from your phone, and you can also use your phone as a key. I, however, feel there's no problem with having a key fob. I feel like they kind of, introduced a solution to a non-problem, but maybe it was just something they were easily able to do, so they just decided to make it a feature. The one instance where I feel like this would really make sense is, say you had a car at a friend's house, and for whatever reason they didn't have your key. You could give them access to your phone, to your car via their phone, and they could move your car for whatever reason. See, I'm even creating non-problems in my head to come up with the solution as to why I should use phone as a key. But with that being said, my initial ownership experience with this Mach-E has been really great. It works as a nice utility vehicle for me. It's not fun, no matter if I have propulsion sound on, no matter if I'm on unbridled mode, no matter if I'm using that 0 to 60 in 4.1 second time. It doesn't really do anything for me in that sense. What it does do for me is that it provides a car that needs almost no maintenance. So my entire maintenance schedule for this Mach-E over the course of 40,000 miles is going to be tire rotations every 10,000. And so with that being said, I really don't have to have my mind on maintaining my own car while I'm focusing on providing cars for you guys to view and to, obviously do car reviews and also work my full-time job. My Elantra just started to kind of be a problem, and I didn't want to have to constantly deal with maintenance on it, so I decided to get an electric vehicle, not only to experience what an EV is like, but to also experience that, lack of having any sort of maintenance schedule. I don't have to bring my car to the dealership or do oil changes myself every 3,000 miles, which I do appreciate. So now let's talk about my charging situation. So my first about month of ownership, I didn't have anywhere to charge the car at home. So I had to make a lot of stops at public chargers, which, if you don't know, public charging is very expensive. It's 56 cents a kilowatt hour here in the USA, at least my part of the country in New Hampshire, and that really adds up. That's more expensive than premium gas for the efficiency of this Mach-E, which on average, in the winter, I'm getting about 2.5 miles a kilowatt hour to about 3. Now that I've been able to charge at home, I just charge on a normal 110. Ford provided me the cords to be able to plug in, with the purchase of the Mach-E. And so at home, I get about 1.2 kilowatts an hour charging, which equates to about 40 miles, in the time that my car is charged when I get home from work to the time where I need it again. And my car is also being charged in a garage, so I don't have to worry about things such as the battery draining itself to keep warm. So that along with my work schedule, where I'm working from home a lot and then I'm going into Boston a few times a week, maybe twice a week, sometimes no times a week, sometimes 3 times a week, right? So at most I'm going in 3 times a week into Boston. So that really enables me to have an EV and charge at home on a level 1 charger. As far as cost with this level 1 charging, I'm paying 11 cents a kilowatt hour, which is absolutely nothing. To charge my 91 kilowatt hour battery, to full from zero, you know, having 91 kilowatt hours, do the math, that's like $10 a week to fill up. So with that being said, I've really had no problems charging my car at home, and I have yet to use the public charging stations besides my road trip since I've been able to charge at home. So with that being said, this concludes my first edition of my ownership experience with my 2024 Ford Mustang Mach-E. I will continue to do updates. Let me know if you guys want to do like 3 months and then 6 months and then a year or something like that. I can do update videos periodically. I will also probably have some initial driving videos with my Ford Mustang Mach-E. Maybe I'll do some snow driving in this car that I'm going to release just to members, so they have some exclusive content to them. So don't forget to sign up. That's only $2.99 a month. I drastically decreased the price of that membership because I don't want to take so much money from you guys, but I also feel like, you know, I want to provide a way for people to, you know, give back to me if they would like to support my channel. With that being said, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, because those help me too, and those are free. And I will see you guys all next time on Auto Joe. Bye.